afternoon. How are you?
I had created an event when you sent me the invite, and I had gone and logged into that event 15 minutes before. And I'm wondering, where is Rajiv? And then I went back and I said, I am so enthusiastic about the subject that I was like, I don't want to miss this.
And look at that library behind you. My God, that's crazy. I mean, I've seen it, but I'm just seeing it like this. I normally see you in the hall where you have a staircase in the background. This is
Yeah,
lovely.
I'm in the office today. No, the last 2, 3 weeks we've been in the office. So
Super,
you've
super.
seen me in the house. Yeah.
Very nice. Fantastic. How have you been?
Very well. What about you? How have things been for you?
Things have been good. This event has been keeping me pretty busy and occupied with multiple guests coming in, and you're here today.
Yeah.
Plus, work with a couple of other clients started off, so that way it's hands full kind of, so which is
Oh,
nice.
superb, superb. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, thank you.
Second good.
Same to you, absolutely. Super. So, thank you so much for, first of all, accepting the invite, Deepa, and so excitingly joining this force. You were one of the initial guests whom I spoke with after connecting on LinkedIn, and you were so comfortable from the first word go when you started talking to me about this. And I could have that connect of the passion for books. That was very interesting. And I can see that behind you. And you walked around the office with your laptop to show me the multiple chambers and rooms that had books. So lovely,
Yeah,
lovely. Right?
actually bookstores and libraries, I think are my, or even, used books, places on pavements. I mean, these are have always been they're like magnets for me.
Very, very nice. Good. Before we get started, let me quickly introduce you to the audience. So, hi everyone, welcome back to the session once again. We have yet another guest, Ms. Deepa Soman, Managing Director of Lumiere Research and Consulting India. And she's been in this business for many, many years, a veteran, if I can use that word for her. And she has, as an organization, doing almost like 70 projects a year. And apparently, the company has not missed one deadline even by a day. That's an amazing feat. That's something called execution excellence, Deepa. So congratulations to you and your team to do that for 70 projects across the year. That's marvelous, right? So she's going to be talking about a book that she has picked up, which is her favorite among many, many books. So let's all listen to what Deepa has to say. So Deepa, welcome once again on this event called Leaders and Libraries. How are you feeling?
So thank you, Rajiv, and thank you, audience, for coming in to watch. I'm so excited that I created a new Zoom event called Leaders and Libraries because I said, what if I miss Rajiv's mail? Little did I know that I was on another link and where I should sit here with all of you. So
How
that's how
sweet.
excited I am.
How
Thank
sweet,
you.
how sweet, how sweet. Thank you so much for that. It gives me a lot of energy from that side, all the way from Mumbai to Bangalore. So let me start with the first question, right? Deepa for books and books for Deepa. How do these phrases go together?
Yeah, Rajiv, I for me books have been my best friends. They've been my my refuge ever since I was a little girl. Uh, and as I've grown, of course, my my father worked with the Times of India, and every day when he came back from work, his briefcase used to be full of lots of complimentary material that
Mm,
included, from Indrajal comics to Madhuri to
mm.
Femina to film fair to evening news, and I was like a bookworm. I would devour everything, including Dharma Yog, and you know so I'm like that. And then, of course, we had the Reader's Digest subscription, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had a little standing joke in the family. If anyone said something smart or clever or funny, we would say, let's send that to the Reader's Digest. So,
Thank you for reminding Indrajal comics. I remember Mandrake, Lothar, and the Phantoms of the World. Lovely characters, isn't it?
yes, and there were like absolutely like BZB on the evening news, and those were like things I used to. I think that made my life really, really beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
I would sound like I was not very sociable, but for me, books came well, well, well above people, and I would. Even when I went socializing or went to people's homes, I naturally have gravitated towards any book I could find, and I would be completely lost in my own world, forgetting that I'm in a social setting. And as a grown up, I have to work very hard to be well behaved around books because I'm a bit like a like a alcoholic, bookaholic, if there's a word.
Bookaholic, that's a nice one. Absolutely. Superb. So nice. You started reading books at a very young age and you spoke about this earlier as well. So tell me, Deepa, how has uh, the evolution as a reader helped you to evolve as a leader?
Yeah. So, Rajiv, it's a funny story because, I would, I was always very confident and good at academics. And my turning point actually came in when I discovered books to develop personal mastery. And that was in my class 10 prelim exams, where my
Mm,
geometry paper, I don't know, I just blanked out. And my principal was very worried, called my parents, to school, wondering whether I was very stressed. And I've been a very, sincere and a serious student.
mm,
And somehow I was not feeling very confident, and the board exams were just like 2 months
mm,
away, and I chanced upon Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking, which was given as a prize to one of my fellow students. So I, because I just can't resist books, I just walked up to her, and as soon as she got that prize, and I said, Rose,
mm,
are you planning to read this today? And she said,
mm,
no. I mean, she must have thought, silly. Like she just got the gift and I wanted that book. So I said, Rose, I'll promise to bring it back tomorrow. So I took that book and I read it through the night. And Rajiv, that's why I believe that books find us. It was possibly a complete turning point for me. And I actually started to positively visualize that I was getting 80% marks, which is 560 marks. And I kid you not, and the readers will think I'm making this up, but I got exactly 80%,
wow.
560 marks. I came first in school.
Power of
And that,
visualization.
and I was all of 14, and I had, discovered something really stupendous, which is you can change mindsets, attitudes,
Right.
behavior. And from then on, I almost created this whole parallel path because, like I said, I've always been very goal oriented, and
Mm,
I know I always. So my father, for instance, when I was going away to St. Xavier's College, he said, before you go to college, you start college life, I want you to read one book for sure. And I was like, what is it? And he had given me Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and
yeah.
Influence People as the book, which is a must read because my father has always been a very outer people oriented man, a very popular person. And I think for him, it was also about a winning personality, I guess, whereas uh, for me, I'm a little more skewed towards the inner. So, like the 7 habits and the whole character piece attracts me more than the personality piece. But I mean, as a leader, yes, I mean, I'm relentless when it comes to saying, how
Mm.
can I get better? And that's really my quest, Rajiv. I think I have a long way to go, but I do work very sincerely and seriously hard on how can I get better.
Fantastic. That's a crazy collection of books behind you. And thank you for reminding How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the topmost read, sold book on the planet ever. And I think every young leader listening to this talk here today should go and pick up this book and read it. And if you've picked it and you've been dusting it on your table for many months, please read it after this talk with Deepa. That's a life-changing book, isn't it? A fabulous one,
Yeah.
right? And I feel so happy
The
to say
power of
this.
affirmation,
Yeah, the power of.
affirmations that
Oh,
he
yes,
talks about.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so happy whenever somebody talks about this book, probably How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, because I had a lovely stint with Dale Carnegie India and I worked with the organization. So I completely eat, live, breathe, the Dale Carnegie Human Relation Principles. Another amazing book, amazing book. Thank
My
you.
mother loved that book as well, How
Yeah,
to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So
yeah. These books
it
have
was there.
impacted
So we both had,
generations.
yeah, completely,
Lovely,
completely.
lovely, lovely. So tell me, among all the great books that you have read, some of them behind you that I see, I was curious to know among all other books, what made you pick this book? What got you here won't get you there by Marshall.
So Rajiv, I got introduced to Marshall Goldsmith work through this book. But what interested me was really the cover and the title. It was so intriguing, and it was sitting on the table of my fellow passenger on this
Mm,
Mumbai Chennai flight.
Mhm.
And I asked him, I said, "Sir, can I take a look at it?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, take a look." So I just looked at it, and it says how successful people become even more successful. That's what it says. And I love the way this ladder breaks in the middle. And, if you look at the cover, and there's someone trying to reach, but they can't quite get there. And it was very, it was really, and it said, discover the 20 workplace habits you need to break. And like I
Mm.
said, I'm always looking to see, can I find a better version of
Mm.
myself? And
Mm.
I said, let me just figure out what these 20 bad habits are.
Mm.
And it really, got me thinking. So somehow this, not the person who was, whose book it was, and we
Mm.
struck a conversation. His name is Dr. N. Ramakrishnan. He's a renowned pioneer in sleep medicine, Nidra, and he's actually one of the people Dr. Kalam actually felicitated. So Dr.
Oh.
Kalam, when he goes to any city, he will reach out to 20 top citizens that he wants to say a personal thank you to. And,
Mhm.
he was one of them. He's written number of books in Tamil
Uh-huh.
for lay people, and after having educated and worked in the US, made a comeback to start this in India. And he is really, and he actually autographed that book for me as he was getting off the plane.
How sweet.
And so Rajiv, I think, when I noticed initially, you notice these things the moment you know what are these 20 bad habits. You kind of discover, and you kind of figure out and say, oh, what is it that I have? So I've had this habit of, even looking at myself or observing friends, clients, to see whether I can pick these. And I noticed that I had a lot of habit three, which is passing judgment. And
Mhm.
I was also quite judgmental in my parenting, believing that straight and narrow is the only way. Because for me, work and life, leadership is also personal leadership, leadership as a
Right.
parent, leadership
Right.
as a community member, leadership
Mm.
as a, as a business leader. So leadership is actually a mindset, it's an attitude, it's a
Mm.
behavior, and it's
Mm.
or a group of behaviors. And ultimately, it all starts with leading yourself, right? So
Right.
I thought what Marshall was giving us was great tools for really working on oneself as far as personal leadership and mastery goes.
Right.
And I discovered that, little things like, if anything that I was not, because I believe that there was one paradigm to becoming successful. So have a
Mm.
goal, have focus, work super
Mm.
hard, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to bed at 10 o'clock. And, you can't make sure that your room is spick and span. And for me, then all of that became like a point where I was getting increasingly frustrated as a
Right.
mom, increasingly frustrated with my kids.
Mhm.
And somewhere I kind of felt that that was the only way, so being
Mm.
studious or being, very serious. Little did I remember that I came from a completely different context and a
Mm.
background than what my kids had grown up in, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
thankfully, they were still quite young when I found this book, and
Mm.
I started to work on myself. And of course, you have to keep at it. You can't let up. You have to watch yourself all the way, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you do have those demons coming back. And yeah, but yes, being judgmental was the first thing I caught myself by the year. And
How nice. The beauty of the book is uh, it has touched so many lives like yours as well, Deepa. And it makes such a transformation when you read the book, whether it's the triggers of Marshall Goldsmith or this particular book. He has got this unique knack of, slapping you on your cheek on every page. And if you shit, man, I'm goofing up my life. What am I doing with myself? He does it so
yeah,
very well. And you go back and think, no, I need to make some change. Else, I'm just wasting reading this book. So I think that's what Marshall is all about. So thank you so much for picking this book. With all that success that you have had, on your personal leadership, entrepreneurial leadership, leader as a mother, you are aware of the mirage of success that he talks about in this book, which all of us, as you rightly said, the demon comes out and we get stuck in those beliefs, right? How did you
exactly.
work out of that? How did you? Well, I wouldn't say you never got stuck. I'm sure you also would have got sucked by the gravity of I will succeed, I can succeed, I choose to succeed kind of beliefs. How did you always work through that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll sound very weird to you, but so I have never had like great self-esteem as a, growing up, right? I never had self-esteem. For me, even when I went to my MBA class, I was the youngest of my class. I'd come doing BA economics. If there were
Mm-hmm.
like 95% people were engineers, or they were chartered accountants, or there was a
Mm-hmm.
lawyer, people who were older than me, who had work experience. So I was always this, I never fit.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, I was so for me, it was this whole aspect of first wanting to get into Hindustan Lever
Mm-hmm.
was such a clear goal in my mind that, and I was obviously very young. So, and then I was the first lady sales manager in the Lipton system. So there were these many firsts. And I remember once my mother telling me, in passing, when she was visiting me in Bangalore, she says, "You've changed." So, probably she meant it that I should have asked her, perhaps, how do you think I've changed? If I were to, I would have. But I kind of thought, now when I look back, I had this, maybe it was ego, this whole thing of,
Mm-hmm.
being very confident. I have succeeded, feeling I can succeed, I will succeed. And then I went away to Jamaica when I took a career break. And when I thought that, look, I think I am not enjoying just being at home, I started applying to a couple of companies. And I have never known rejection until then, Rajiv. So, going and doing interviews when you think you're going to land the job and think that the job,
Right.
the interview is fantastic, and then you don't get it, it happens once or twice, you kind of start wondering,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what is all this about? So all that had to, of course, happen, because that's how I started the idea of Lumiere, and I started Lumiere. But uh, I think for me, even after I came back to India, and there was, like, there was some success and things like that, uh, a lot of, I still had the refrain in my mind, I'm not successful. So the scripting was also very very outer directed. I don't have a Tony apartment in South
Mm-hmm.
Bombay. I don't have all the perks of a big job.
Mm-hmm.
No, I live in a small place called Nerul in Navi Mumbai. I used to be very sensitive if I went to a party when people said, "Oh, geez, you've come all the way," and I kind of felt like I was a hick, and I was very touchy about it. And I took
Mm-hmm.
it all very personally, and because all conversations would start with, "Oh, are you still in Nerul?" Or, I kind of read it as, maybe, don't you have ambition? Haven't you achieved anything? And I think it took me a long time to kind of get over that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
used to also I used to come from a point of saying, I haven't even achieved 10% of what I want to achieve. And I always had overcommitted. I worked very, 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 very hard. But I think in the last 4 to 5 years, I mean, that's how long it's taken me to grow up. I'm content now knowing that I do my best every day.
Right.
And my simple question is, did I do my best today? And if the answer
Lovely.
determines what I can do better the next day. So I'm not about measuring or evaluating, especially neither from anyone else's or from my own limited perspective anymore, Rajiv.
How lovely,
So
because
that answers
as
your question.
lovely as I heard the story, you have been very well doing as a student. You have had scoring very good marks, and then you went on to join the Hindustan Lever that you wanted to. Despite that, there was something that was constantly a surge or a quench that was inside you. You still wanted something, right?
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if you were an introvert child and you kind of evolved to become an extrovert person that you are. It's quite difficult for me to believe that the earlier Deepa would be what you were talking about, right? But
Yeah.
the beauty is, I think you have evolved as a leader yourself, and I think the very fact that you've gone through up and down has always helped you not get stuck through those beliefs, isn't it? I think it's so
Yeah.
fundamentally important. Lovely, very very nice.
And Marshall says it so well, Rajiv. He
Yeah.
really nails it. I think people watching, you guys must read it. Just do yourself this huge favor by reading what Marshall says, because he says it like no one else can.
Absolutely. Every statement is a bullseye. It just comes and hits you, isn't it? Lovely, lovely. So nice. So tell me, Deepa, as you became an entrepreneur, leader, and you're leading teams, right? Despite the fact that the angels come out and we try to be the best leader, there are those devils sometimes popping out, like that Tom and Jerry, right, where you have a devil coming up and the demon coming up on one side. We
Yeah.
have this lovely statement by Peter Drucker that says that it's so important for leaders to think about stopping to do something, not always
Yeah.
about doing something. Why
Absolutely.
is it so important for leaders to stop doing something? And I'd like to ask this question from a very learning perspective also, because in workshops, we normally kind of give the participants a perspective saying, start doing, continue doing, and stop doing. And I thought start and continue were very important. Till I read the book many, many years back and realized the stop block seems to be even more important.
Very
Why is
important.
that, Deepa?
Very important. This is really like the famous Johari window. We
Mm,
don't know what are our blind sides. What is it that you know, what is it that we wish people give us feedback early on? It's like that spinach that's stuck in your teeth that
mm,
others can see but you can't, or the lipstick on your teeth, or So I feel this aspect of what he talks about in the book is really about better behavior with others. And one of
mm,
them, which I think is so important, is smart people have this especially big need. And even older people,
yeah.
hamare time mein, in our time, in our day, and there's this whole perspective of somewhere you feel you need to add value as
Mm,
opposed to adding too much value. And I think early on, stopping that actually allows you to soak in so much more of what's in the room, allows you to read the room better.
correct.
And I call it really moving from the center to the periphery. So I do that very consciously. What helps is also that I'm a researcher and I study
Mm,
consumers. So a lot of my work is about moving to the periphery, or in
mm,
consulting, it is about moving to the periphery,
mm,
right?
mm,
The big thing that I had to work on, Rajiv, which not that I wasn't aware of it, but there's a big gap between being aware of it and finally having mastery over it, is
mm,
my anger
mm,
management. I used to be short tempered
mm.
and I never kind of saw it as a,
Wow, that's again
something to be
unbelievable for me.
ashamed of. Yeah, and 2000 so I have had to work all my life on anger management and being patient. Uh, Again, like I said, control on my tongue, because especially when I'm angry, and I think it happens to all of us, when we are angry and we speak, we are sharper than we otherwise intend to be. And
Yeah.
maybe we didn't even mean it like that, or maybe it comes out as sarcasm, but it can really be, it can demolish the other person. We may not realize it, and no amount of apology thereafter can really set right that damage done. Yeah. So
Mm,
I think in terms of stopping, we need to figure out what is it that are our demons. So for me, like I said, my demon was anger.
mm,
uh, my demon related to that was also impulse control in terms
mm,
of speaking before
mm,
thinking. Sometimes actually I have spoken out, very outspoken. I used to take a lot of pride in it, and I kind of, now I
mm,
think it was stupid. I used to think that there was, so yes, one must be honest, one must have integrity,
mm.
but one can choose to be silent at certain times. One
Correct.
doesn't necessarily have to, you know
Speak all the
I
time.
couldn't. Yeah. And there was one important thing was when I learned to let go of perfectionism. So, my
Mhm.
tolerance for defect, or my commitment to excellence, but not commitment to perfectionism. So that shift was very important for me
Oh,
to make,
lovely,
Rajiv.
lovely.
Stopping, because that's the only way you can really give confidence to a team who
Mm,
otherwise will not get the confidence to do anything. Because if they have to keep measuring up to what you are doing, the client will not buy it, and I have to move to the periphery and keep buttressing my team, right?
mm.
Otherwise I don't have a team. Otherwise it's only me, the individual Deepa Soman. So I think these are, so stopping is hugely important. I mean, that's why you have Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. So, that is how the Trinity is so important, right? So something has to stop and end for some new life to take birth
Absolutely.
again.
Absolutely. I think very, very nicely articulated. I primarily like the statement that you made about excellence versus perfection. Perfection is never a destination, isn't it? It's still a journey. We all
Such
strive
a
to reach
trap. You think you're making progress, you're not. You're sometimes just so fearful of even starting. That
that.
happens to all of us. I will read a book from cover to cover. I know so many people who never open it because they don't know whether they'll be able to get 5 days in a stretch, or they
Correct.
keep the books for a vacation.
Correct.
I'm like that little mouse that's taking nibbles every day at the cheese.
Right. So are you strongly sending a message through Marshall's, mirage of success learning that you had, Deepa, in your own experience, to the budding leaders listening, that instead of searching for perfection, they would rather invest time and effort on achieving excellence in every small thing that they do.
Absolutely. It could be just being an excellent parent, if it being present, being listening, when you're sitting. So my dad used to call it watertight compartments. So, when you are in a being focused, when you are in a task, he went away to sea and he was a young sailor very early in his, just after his 12th class because he wanted to see the world, and
Mm,
he did education after alongside, etc. So
mm,
watertight compartment is a very ship term where you need to have complete, you know uh, uh, a kind of a space
mm,
where you contain something. And I think that kind of attention,
mm.
that kind of presence, I think is very important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And that alone
Absolutely.
is, I think, brings a lot of excellence to anything that one is doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. Lovely. I think the movie Three Idiots beautifully depicts this, isn't it? It's all about excellence. Yeah. So nice.
Yes.
So nice. So nice. You spoke about our generation. You spoke about we always are clinging on to हमारे ज़माने में ऐसे होता था, young ज़माने में ऐसे नहीं होता है, and you kind of one leg here, one leg there. But tell me, Marshall also talks that these leaders have this tendency to make this statement. Let me tell you that won't work, right? But I have a question really want to ask you. I mean, I've been mulling over it for long, and I don't know if I've got an answer to it fully. But let me give you a chance to help me open the strands more. All of us have got experience. Why is it not right for us to tell somebody that? Let me tell you that won't work because I have tried it when I was young in your age. It didn't work. So I'm just helping you save time and effort. Why would you want to take it in a negative sense?
Yeah, I think time, place, context, all that is so important. Uh, if someone 20, whatever number of years ago would have told me, let me tell you why it won't work. But yes, I've had to wait it out for COVID to say that work from home works. So, what I'm trying to say over here is, habit eight or negativity, what he says, Marshall talks about, is really also the not invented here syndrome.
Hmm,
So organizations, when we believe that we are hiring fresh talent,
hmm,
we want people to think differently, and then we put a dampener on them, saying, no, 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 we've tried this before, and it sort of seems counterintuitive to us.
hmm,
So it can be a huge it also links results in a very big inclusion and diversity challenge, whether it's old team versus new team, younger team, older team.
hmm,
And I think the best counter for that is really strong values, that you can, organizational values, because these could be individual behavioral traits that people will have in degrees. But if there are core values that drive the organization, which says that we need to have a culture of innovation, and therefore we will respect people to speak up. We will want fearlessness in speaking up on ideas.
right,
We want respect for the individual. We want commitment to excellence. We want
correct.
responsibility and honesty. You have to demonstrate that by continuously walking the talk. So
Hmm,
we experience this even at Lumiere, because we do have a continuum of people that works with us from,
hmm,
17 weeks to 17 years, right?
hmm,
So that you will expect that there will be these kind of dynamics that come in. And then for us, it is to show the Lumiere values,
hmm,
which make it extremely important for the person, even whether they are doing a 4-week observership with us or a 8-week internship with us, to really feel that they were at no point in time less than anybody, any other core team
right,
member. And that
right.
comes with being given the freedom to speak your mind without anyone telling you we don't do it like that. So I think that's something that we have worked very hard, also because it's a very positive workplace, Rajiv. It has to be. So when you have returnee back to work people who've
Hmm,
slightly low on confidence, you want to buttress them up by saying it's okay. That's why we call it the playground. Why is
correct.
Lumiere a playground? And there's all kinds of things. There's a jungle gym, there's the seesaw, and you can
Hmm,
pretty much try out various things and say, okay, I want to do this and this
hmm,
more than anything else.
hmm,
So uh, it's really about saying, I think for the organization,
Mm-hmm.
we can't anticipate everything. Yeah. So there are
Mm.
black swan events, there are events that we have never known. And I think if you're driving a culture of innovation and courage, or creativity,
Mm.
you must have the courage to take it on the nose to say, so it's not now, may not
Mm.
be never. So
Mm.
it could, something may not work right now, but
Yeah,
if I say that, I'm not even creating a pipeline for horizon 2,
absolutely.
because not now may not be never. So for me, I
Absolutely.
think it's a big risk when
Mm.
when leaders have the habit 8, which is
Mm.
negativity. Let me explain, and that to explain why it won't work. I mean, you don't even need to, even if you say that won't work, that's enough, but people will make the effort to
Oh, yeah.
explain,
Yeah.
which is jale pe namak. So we don't even need that. So
You're right. This. I think you brought this lovely thing of playground. And Marshall in his other book, Triggers, talks about how environments create triggers for people to make changes in their own behaviors and their own intent for life or purpose for life. I think what you're talking about playground is nothing but the environment that Lumiere is giving to the employees and the people coming there. That it's very conducive. You can try
yes,
test anything like you do in a laboratory. Some of the tests
absolutely.
fail, some of them works. Great, so okay, it doesn't matter. Even if four fails, one succeeds. You're looking for that one success, isn't it? And they would want to come back to the same playground because they are playing free without the pressure of a goal post and wanting to put a goal, isn't it? That's so important, isn't it?
Absolutely. And
I
that's
think.
something we worked hard to create.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
Rajiv, that reminds me, I still have to buy triggers. I don't have triggers in my library.
Do that, do
I'm
that.
going to
Please
do
do,
that.
please do that. That makes a lot of sense, and I think the prefix to be able to create a playground like this by leaders in their organizations is their strong effort to drop that intense temptation to say that that won't work. जब तक उसको पकड़ के रखेंगे, I don't think they can create a clear playground for play, isn't it? I
We
love
say try karo ma.
that. Absolutely. And I love the point that you said moving from a center to a periphery, because when you go to a periphery, you get a balcony view of the entire thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's so
So
important for a leader to get that view, which you'll never get from the nucleus point.
and you're not coming from a place of big ego, because I think that's again a big trap. I think it's a huge trap. So I kind of try and keep that small I really small, because that's the
Uh,
only way for a
yeah.
leader.
So whenever I hear this, from the book or people like you saying, always go back to Steve Jobs, who's been one of my eternal idols in the space of leadership. He always said that we recruit talented people not to tell them what to do, but they tell us what we should do. What a
Absolutely.
powerful statement, isn't it? And how can somebody, you have to be so open to be able to do that, right? Lovely, fantastic. So I'm going to ask you this question now. Marshall in his books, I'm going to read this. He talks about a couple of things, and he says, clearly communicating a vision, treating people with respect, soliciting contrary opinions, encouraging other people's ideas. Right? From these four, pick two, Deepa, that you have always been respected, acknowledged for, and why are these two the most important for
Yeah. So I think it goes again back to family values. Treat
you?
people with respect was something which was a core family value growing up. And again, a family value for us in our household.
Mm,
You can never do enough, you can never do it wrong. So treating people with respect has been huge for us in our family. Uh, I've seen help be with us for years. Our driver has been with us up until he started got his own cab and started Uber and stuff for 22 years.
wow.
So I think a very big part of treating people with respect. One of the first things that people in Lumiere learn is the doorman and the chairman of the company. You behave with them with the same degree of respect and decorum. And I think it's also very aligned to the Hindustan lever, Unilever way of treating people with respect and dignity. So for us, that's a non-negotiable. So we've had a situation once where one of our team members, there was a complaint from a field partner
Mm,
saying that they were spoken very sharply to one of the supervisors. And we had a conversation with our colleague, and we grounded her for 6 months.
Mm.
So, and grounding is again what you do in families, right? So you ground kids,
Yeah.
and you needed to send a message saying bad behavior. If you slipped on something, you made a mistake, that's different. But if you
Mm.
treated someone with compromised respect,
Mm.
so our kids had very few negotiable, non there were very few non-negotiables growing up. So I didn't make a, we didn't have a fuss about Milind and I about coming first or whatever. But respect for the individual, I think treating people with respect was number one on what the kids had to comply to, and that meant each other. That meant the help.
Lovely.
That meant so that's one. Uh, See, second, I think this is the first one I do really well. Frankly, on the all the others, I can do better. So I must tell you that. So though I can maybe say that yes, communicating a vision clearly is something that giving, showing the big picture, being able to communicate that in a very impassioned manner, being able to come from a place of great passion when I talk about the Lumiere purpose, our values, why we do what we do, our mission, why we work with certain sectors and we don't with others, why we want to do a particular kind of work more, why we are into so many social causes that we feel
Right.
strongly about, and why we believe business needs to can do a lot of
Mm.
do well by doing good has been something very we've always stood by and believed in. So I would say I would definitely, I can do better on encouraging others ideas. I think I do, but I do believe greatly in the wisdom of teams, the power of the group,
Right.
collaborating, all of that. In terms of soliciting opinions that are contrary to mine, I can definitely do better, because I think if I asked, probably I would get more. I don't know if I'm actively asking for contrary opinions, though I do would say, what else does anyone think? But I think pointed contrary opinions,
Mm-hmm.
because whether I like it or not, I do have I do enjoy a lot of fan following in my
Mm.
team,
Mm.
and that's also a little scary, because you you want people think that you know a lot. And I think also when you read a lot, people might mistake knowledge from wisdom, and that's again a trap even for good readers. So
Lovely.
I'm very conscious of that. So I think I can do better on that. And listening, of course, I think I can do much better on that. I mean, I want to be able to really listen, like and talk to the other person and listen to them like they were the only person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I I have done. My needle has moved definitely, but I think I can do a lot better.
That's
I
that's
don't know if
so
that answers.
that's so humble of you. I think yeah, all of us are learning and becoming better at each. But I think the point that you're trying to drive to all the listeners who are budding leaders is uh, treating people with respect is fundamentally important, right? And
Yeah, it is
like Simon Sinek,
non-negotiable.
yeah, and like Simon Sinek talks about, leaders have to win hearts and minds. So hearts come before the mind, right? It's all about
Yeah.
respecting people and touching the heart. Then their mind will start working for you, and they will want to deliver what you want them to deliver, right? I think it's all about
Yes.
that. I read a very powerful statement many years back that said, leadership is all about getting people to do what you want them to do because they want it to do for you.
Yeah. So
You know,
beautiful.
I think they will do it for you because they want to do it only when you win hearts. And when you can win hearts, it means respecting people. That's fundamentally important. I think in the current world where everything seems to be materialistic, everything seems to be a quick fix, and moving up, kind of touching the glass ceiling early. I think it's important for all youngsters to learn from you to go and figure out that it's all about respecting people, and things will anyway boom around and come back to you. Yeah, thank you for that. Right. So extending this for one more question that I want to ask you is, tell me, Deepa, what is that one non-negotiable character of yours that has brought you till here, and you think will take you there?
Ah,
One.
okay.
I'm not going to dig to one.
Okay, so I think there are two things because they go hand in hand. One is expressing gratitude, and the other is giving recognition. Uh, in the book, I think number 17, if I'm not wrong, is expressing gratitude, and
Gratitude.
number 10 is giving recognition. Uh, for me, I firmly believe that we can't accomplish anything alone. I truly believe. I truly believe that in personal life, in professional life, people, circumstances, uh, your angels, all the things that are working for you, uh, past, present, all the people, even the negative things that have happened to you, that
Mm,
have brought up you up to this point,
mm,
are all meant for a reason. And for me, expressing gratitude is second nature. I do it privately. I do it, in public. I do it for the to the individual. I
mm.
do it to my team, and giving recognition and celebrating. Because for me, the celebration as an umbrella has these two dimensions of recognition and gratitude.
Gratitude.
So for me, I feel a lot of where uh, what the world sees as success has really come out of a tremendous amount of goodwill garnered along the way, because people have seen this as a genuine uh, acknowledgement of the
Mm,
role they've played in the Lumiere journey, in my personal journey, in my professional journey.
mm.
And I wake up every morning with the thought of immense gratitude. I close my day, and all the intervening moments, good and bad, I do know that I'm giving gratitude, because that's happening for a reason, I believe. I
Right.
may not be able to see why that thing is happening right now, especially if it's adverse, but I do know that there's something brilliant that's going to come out of it. And it's a pattern, Rajiv. I mean,
Yeah,
I can
it
really
is.
look back at my troughs to see that something beautiful and brilliant came out of those troughs.
It is. It
And
is.
whether it was in my parenting, whether it has been through my work and success failures especially. um, so yeah, I mean, I think expressing gratitude and
Gratitude.
giving recognition under the umbrella of celebrate.
Lovely, lovely. I think it's so very important, and thank you for sharing this, because I just remember my father here, because he would always tell me that, Rajiv, when an incident A happens and an incident B happens, and then an incident C happens, we sometimes look at them as individual incidents. It's just for you to pause and think that the incident A and B had to happen for the C to happen. When you
Yeah,
connect, you'll realize that there's a larger purpose on every incident, because it's going to sow the seed for another big incident that's going to happen. So it's about, you need to connect it. Nobody else can connect it. I think that's a very lovely way to look at things, isn't it? It kind of gives you a lot of peace, a lot of solace, and you don't get unnecessarily worried. You don't fuss about
yeah, yeah,
trivials around, right? And you're far more rested in your head, isn't it? Right.
absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you for that. So as I close the session, I'm going to ask you the last but one question, and then the last one. One laser focused advice to the budding leaders listening to you, Deepa.
Yeah, yeah. So um, what I would say is, we must recognize that people are not everybody is about book reading and book learning, and that's fine. So not everybody needs to read a physical book. So people will learn by audio. We have
Hmm,
podcasts. There are visual learners, so people can, you know uh, do some visual thinking or be able to translate.
hmm,
So the catchword for me is to take the reading beyond to the learning.
hmm,
And the learning comes when you apply and
hmm,
you close that learning loop in that way.
hmm,
Yeah. So read a lot or listen to audiobooks, podcasts, pick up a subject you like, yeah,
hmm,
and make some jottings and notes. Don't read uh, in a certain flow
hmm.
without pausing to reflect or do some reflection exercises
Beautiful.
or make mind maps or visual thinking,
Hmm,
because that's where the reading translates into understanding when we
correct.
reflect and we apply. I would say challenge yourself to write. So the ratio
Hmm,
between reading, earlier I used to be a very voracious reader. I read, and then I went on a retreat in 2017, and I
hmm,
was given one assignment where for 2 weeks we didn't have to read. Yeah.
hmm,
That was the time when I got so much of writing done,
hmm.
so much of thinking done, so much of reflection done, that I've become, now I have a bit of a a diet, a little more regulation in the amount I'm reading, and it's only
Mm,
held me in greater stead. I'm doing a lot of visual thinking, so I'm also making a lot of illustrations. I've also been a mind mapper for almost
mm,
2 decades now, but now I do visual thinking illustrations as well.
mm.
Keep some time of the day in the office. I mean, we tell all new joiners, keep aside at least 1 hour every day to read, at least 1 hour. And it's like the time to start is now. Yeah, make a fixed time. It's like exercise. If you want to do it when you're, when you're traveling, then listen to a podcast or listen to a book. Reading helps us really enlarge the vocabulary, our thinking, our worldview, the range and width. It allows us to really connect the unconnected. And I'm in the business of helping companies and individuals become more creative, more innovative, more insightful. How do you move from observation to insight? And I think somewhere reading gives us more data points for
Right.
us to do that thinking. So I think, yeah, I mean, and of course, I know a lot of wise people who don't read maniacally like me, and that doesn't make them any less. But reading makes me happy, and I think it might make you happy.
Lovely. Thank you so much for all the youngsters. I think that's a very powerful message that go pick up the book or pick up the audio book, whatever be the format. I think the format is secondary. What is important that Deepa is talking is reading, learning, and continue doing that. It can expand you as an individual, expand your vocabulary, as you rightly said. I think that's very, very important. Especially in the digital world, the tendency to hold on to the phone, drop that, and probably go to something interesting as an app there and read or listen. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Blinkist, I
that.
think I know young people are talking about Blinkist. So
Oh
Blinkist is a
yes,
app
yes, yes,
which you
yes.
can get
Yeah.
download for yourself.
Very many, very
10
many.
blinks, 12 blinks, so you can do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Deepa. So your final thought on the concept of leaders and libraries. How did you like it from the day we
Oh,
spoke to now? And your thought on the work that we do from book-based learning for the organizations as an organization that we are. I'd like to hear from that.
Rajiv, I think when you meet a fellow reader, someone who is an aficionado about books, it's like really becoming a part of one tribe, and I am very happy to have made your acquaintance. I
Same
believe
here.
that in the concept of I read, we learn, we practice that at Lumiere as well, where a person gets to pick up a book or a chapter or a section of their choice, and then, so for example, when we were doing archetype theory,
Hmm,
people got to choose the archetype they wanted to study on, and 12
hmm,
people picked up 12 archetypes. And then through the year, we had a learning program on archetype theory through
lovely.
individuals reading and learning. Similarly, when we were doing the culture code, we picked up one dimension.
Hmm,
I feel that reading, when you actually share,
hmm,
when you teach, because
hmm,
I got an opportunity in Jamaica to teach at the University of West Indies. I taught
hmm.
market research. And I think as a practitioner, I don't think I knew as much as when I became a teacher, when I had
Right.
to read a lot of material, when I actually had to go and talk, and when I had to answer questions. And I
Hmm,
think that deepening was very
hmm,
valuable. So reading, I think, in this format of leaders and libraries, when you get people to talk about the books, you're creating a curiosity. You're
hmm,
able to link the learnings of that leader or their work
hmm.
applications and life applications with that book, and you're creating a strong positive pull for the cause of reading, which I think is beautiful and really the need of the hour. So it's like that systems one, system two thinking. This is really long work. You have to put aside some time for it. It means no distractions for that 1 hour, putting the
Right.
phone away. I think these are all very good practices because
Right.
it just allows us to work better, think better. And on your concept, which is the consulting you do, which is book based, I think it's brilliant, Rajiv. And I would love to run a couple of pilots with you. I'd love to see how it works because one does it very intuitively. I must give you one last story as I'm going away. We were invited to do a project on change management many, many years ago, and it was going to be in the space of transformation for a
Mhm,
company to say, what is it that holds us back from growing? That was the question. And I was part of the growth team, and my job was to do the situation analysis
mhm,
and to come away with some stories on what has worked and what hasn't worked with
mhm,
some recommendations. And I was walking on PM Road on Strand Bookstore, where this book, Built to Last was looking at me and beckoning me into the Strands bookstore, as books always do. They called me out, and I went in and I bought that book. And that book provided me with a framework for what we did with that organization. So a lot of the books that we do and the work that we do, whenever we are working on a project, a clue again over here, if there's something that you want to know more about the subject, go and look for work that's been done in that space. Go
Yeah.
pick up that, read that material. Because I think you then come from a space of a lot more confidence. I don't use the word authority because that's
Correct.
not what we want here, but a lot. So you come from a place of curiosity, you come with a little more confidence, and
Mm.
you kind of bring that to your argument to make it more
Yeah.
cogent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think share. I mean, I lose a lot of books because I've got this terrible habit of, oh, you must read this book, and I, give this book to the person, and then I've promptly forgotten that I have to take it back. While giving it, I give it with a bookmark and all, ke wapas dena and all that. But yeah, so I do have that bimari.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you. Thank you for the appreciative words. I really respect that, Deepa, because that's the very purpose of the organization Leadership Elements is my own passion for books became a business model. And through that business model, I'm trying to help many, many individuals across organizations to find the leaders within themselves through books. There are many, many methods, as you rightly said. I thought this is one very nice way by which you could do, and I think I've been able to add value. And we stand tall and a lot of pride in saying that we do this fairly well with many organizations, and we've been able to build this culture of reading. As you rightly said, many people across the earth that I've worked with have gone and picked up the book and they've come back and said, you know what, thanks for rekindling the habit of reading and seeking knowledge through books. I think that's what all of us are doing, whether it is me or you or all the other guests who are coming on to this event. So thank you so much once again for accepting being here and articulating it so beautifully. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Rajiv, and thank you to the audience for watching. And good luck to you, Rajiv, and to your team and your clients.
Thank you. Same to you. Look forward to meet you soon.
Soon. Bye bye.